Hi, my name is Thais Gibson, and I'm the creator of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video, and if you want access to daily breakthrough videos, please subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell below. Now, today I really want to talk to you a little bit about what to do when you don't feel good enough. Now, we know this most often is a big core wound of anxious, preoccupied individuals. However, this is something that everybody can go through at different periods of time. This is a very common core wound. I think to some degree, every attachment style experiences this, even securely attached individuals. But it tends to be the anxious, preoccupied, and often the fearful avoidance next who experience this the most and the most intensely and the most strongly, although DAs can really experience feeling this way too. So what I want to do is take you through 5 really important steps you can take in real time if you're feeling this way. So the first step is to try to process this experience a little bit more somatically. And what this means is it's so easy for us to dive into a position where we just kind of go like on this thought train. And if you pay really close attention to your own thoughts, what you'll find often takes place is that thoughts produce emotions, and then we tend to take action according to our emotional state. And neuroscience has actually proven this. And we kind of like jump on the thought train and we go for a ride. And what can happen is we go from like telling this story that I'm not good enough to like feeling really insecure, feeling really defeated, feeling really sad, to then acting in whatever way we try to cope with those feelings. And a lot of those things, especially for anxious, preoccupied individuals, are to cling on, to, try to people please, to, call repeatedly or text or try to like gain proximity or closeness, because when you think you're not good enough, it often also triggers the feeling, oh my gosh, well, then I must be, about to be abandoned. Why would anybody want to be with me if I'm not good enough? And they tend to pair together. But for different attachment styles, we tend to have different thought trains with different destinations they land at. So for example, fearful avoidance may feel not good enough, and then they might be angry and defensive or frustrated, right? With all that overwhelming emotion. Dismissive avoidance may shut down and stonewall and ice people out when they're feeling insecure. So we tend to have different like trains we hop on. But I think everybody can relate to feelings of not feeling good enough at certain periods of time. So rather than jumping on the thought train so fast, it's extremely valuable to try to just witness your experience. And what I mean by this is rather than just like thinking more thoughts, feeling more emotions, going into coping, then recirculating this cycle of like, I'm not good enough, and then feel sad, and then go to cling, and then maybe I try calling a bunch, and then somebody doesn't answer, and then I'm like, see, it's because I'm not good enough, and then I feel worse, and then I do more clinging behaviors. See how it just recycles so quickly and easily? We want to get off the train. And what's very valuable is like a grounding technique and a way of like anchoring ourselves out of this is a lot of somatic processing work. And a huge part of this means just trying to witness our internal experience instead of going on autopilot on that train and letting it take us far, far away from ourselves. And so what we start by doing, step 1, is we notice the emotions. And in step 2, we try to label the emotion we're experiencing. Okay. And what this does is it kind of brings you back to self, and it gets you out of that cycle of like thinking, feeling, acting, thinking, feeling, acting, and just going over and over and over again. So try to, in step 1, when I say like notice the emotion, I mean like witness it. I mean, try to notice what the emotion feels like in your body. Try to notice any sensations that are there. You feel not good enough. What does that actually emotionally feel like? Does it feel like sadness? Does it feel like despair? Does it feel like defeat? Does it feel like fear? And what sensations are those emotions made up of? Is fear like knots in your stomach and tingling in your neck? And it's a really good way of bringing you back here to your present moment rather than getting on that train, which just tends to like magnify our experience. So step 1 and 2 are to notice the emotions and sensations and then try to label it. What emotion am I experiencing? Putting words into our emotions is like alchemy. It takes us from a position of inner chaos and it transmutes it into language. And now we can use language. We can use language to communicate. We can use language to set a boundary. We can use language to question our experience instead of just identifying with these thoughts and these patterns. So step 3 is exactly that. It's to question this story that you're telling yourself. Is it even actually valid? And what I want you to ask yourself is, can I 100% know this situation is caused by me being not good enough, or that this situation is just simply about me not being good enough? And it's a way of like taking ourselves out of it, because what happens is when we have different core wounds, the mind is quick to assign meaning to these wounds. So it often goes to your worst case scenarios. So let's say, for example, that you felt not good enough as a child because you had a critical parent. Well, what happens is the moment somebody pulls away from you in a relationship, you might be like, oh, it's because I'm not good enough. But you do it without actually consciously evaluating it. Your subconscious mind projects it. It just does. And it's its way of coping and preparing you for the worst case scenarios. But when you bring your conscious mind on board, this is what happens. Like, as you witness the sensations, you label the emotion, now you question the story, it brings you back to like, hold on a second, let me really think this through before just jumping on that train, believing it, buying in completely. And so now what we do is we go, okay, can I truly know that this is just about me not being good enough? And step 4 is to take that questioning a step further. And this is the really powerful part. Why? Because, and I'm going to show you how to question a step further and why it matters, but I want you to understand the why part first. So the autopilot suffering, that train that you go on, that's happening on autopilot. That's happening from your subconscious level of mind. We can't fix something at the conscious level without engaging the subconscious if the problem exists at the subconscious level. The subconscious mind speaks through emotion and imagery. So when you try to say, oh, I am good enough, it's fine, you know, you might get off the thought train and realize like intellectually that, oh, I'm just telling a story. But when you're really in that emotion and you're having a tough time getting out of it and you're really buying into that story, and that's like a comfort zone for you, you're used to giving that story, it can be hard to actually peel that back and take a step backwards and to realize, hey, this isn't just me not being good enough. So let's just use an example. Let's say that Bob is my partner, and Bob says he wants to cancel our date for the weekend. And I'm like, oh no, like, you know, I'm getting to know Bob. I really like Bob. He must think I'm not good enough. So first, what I would do in the order so far is I would go, I feel this anxiety, this like uncomfortable emotion. I would notice it and try to like anchor myself into it. Like, okay, I'm noticing this discomfort that I'm feeling. I'm noticing like the sensations in my body. It feels like, you know, a tightness in my chest and my stomach. And it feels like a restlessness in my body. And okay, so what are the emotions? Well, I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling uncomfortable. I'm feeling afraid. And so what am I telling myself? What's the story? Oh, I'm telling myself I'm not good enough. Okay. So, and this brings us to step 4. See those first 3 steps? So step 4 is to really question it a level more deeply. Why? Because your conscious mind wasn't like, hey, let me think up these things. Let me tell myself the story that I'm not good enough and see how it feels. No, it happened automatically. It happened from your autopilot subconscious level. So your subconscious mind doesn't speak through language. It speaks through emotion and imagery. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use our conscious mind to speak to our subconscious mind and let it know that we are in fact good enough. And so here's exactly what you would do. You would, from this perspective, go, okay, well, could it be something other than me not being good enough? That's why Bob canceled the date. So very first question, could it be something other than this story, this old story? And if so, what might it be? Well, it could be that Bob is tired, is having a tough week, is having a hard time. It could be that Bob is just not compatible with me and that we have different needs and wants in relationships. It doesn't make me not good enough. It makes us have different ideas and expectations for how a relationship should go. So we're trying to peel back that story and stop buying in over and over again. And by questioning it, we actually, when we think of new ideas, the ideas, if you pay really close attention, come in the form of emotion and imagery. And when you have emotion imagery, you're using your conscious mind that thinks through language a lot of the time and intellectual faculties, and you're using it to speak to your subconscious through emotion and imagery. You're imagining Bob being tired. You see him having a long week. You feel a certain way about that. And so we're actually bridging the gap of communication there. So you're asking yourself exactly this. Could it be something other than this? And you're trying to come up with that evidence. That evidence contains emotion and imagery. Then you can also ask yourself in the same step, how am I in fact good enough? And give yourself a piece of proof, okay? What's a characteristic, a trait, a quality that is good enough to be in a relationship, good enough to be wanted for another date? And again, using that evidence, that piece of proof, will help you use your conscious mind to soothe your subconscious mind. And then the last thing you can ask yourself is, who else sees in my life that I am good enough? Who else thinks I'm good enough to be going on a date, right? So you're bringing these things to help equilibrate that story. And this will help you step out of the thought train onto a new train that's actually about your conscious mind helping to soothe these subconscious wounds, these old pain points, these stories. And last but not least, step 5. And by the way, before I tell you step 5, if you want to do a deeper dive into this stuff, because I know this can be a lot for just one video, I have a whole course about this and how to like understand our wounds and move through these steps really effectively and use worksheets and all these things. It's called our Emotional Mastery and Belief Reprogramming course. It targets all core wounds that we experience as people, and it takes you through steps for not just how to deal with these in real time like this, but how to deal with them in general. And you can check all this out for free for 14 days. It's the only time we're doing this. It's the month of May. We're doing a 14-day free trial for Mental Health Month. And it's so that you can actually go through a course and have the time to do so within that 14-day period, if not 2 courses, depending on how much time you have each. You know, even if you have like 3 or 4 nights a week to just sit down for half an hour, you'll make it through a lot of stuff and can really get integrated into some of this work and really understand it deeply from the inside out, because YouTube can only ever teach surface because I have to make videos under 10 minutes, right? So it's just like next level and makes it so clear, and you can really integrate from the inside out. So anyways, you can check it out all for free, 14 days using the link below. But step 5 is to then make a decision to consciously treat yourself like you are enough. What would somebody do if they felt like they were enough? And as we treat ourselves through our behavior, we recondition programs. Through repetition and emotion of new patterns, new behaviors, new ways of thinking, new ways of feeling, we actually can eliminate these programs once and for all. Because what happens is we start firing and wiring new neural pathways that have a different impact and output. And then we stop refiring these old ones, and eventually they atrophy, just like muscles, and they become obsolete over time. And so we don't feel this way. Our brain doesn't go to this idea that I'm not good enough over and over again. So from the top, really simply, notice your feelings. Okay. Notice that panic, notice that anxiety. What does it feel like in your body? What are the sensations? Label the emotion and the sensations, step 1 and 2. Step 3, can I really 100% know that this is about me not being good enough? And is there proof for that it could be something other than this? Or how am I in fact good enough? Or who else in my life sees me as good enough? Okay. And we're trying to just poke holes there in the story. And then how would somebody in my position treat themselves if they felt like they were enough? And then we want to come up with a strategy for how we can be kind to ourselves, right? Or how we can give ourselves compassion, or how we can show up for ourselves. Maybe it's to set a boundary or to speak up or whatever it might be. And as you go through these 5 steps, it will take you out of this old pattern that just runs on autopilot and help you use your conscious mind to soothe your subconscious mind. And as you do this repetitively each time, eventually you're rewiring some of these old patterns so that they can be set to rest once and for all. So anyways, you'll learn a lot about that in the Emotional Mastery course in way more detail than this video, because I can only put so much into a little video. Other courses, we have another course called 21 Ways to Reprogram Your Subconscious Mind. All about this stuff, all about reprogramming, so many different tools that you can access. And again, you can check it all out for free for 14 days for this month, Mental Health Month of May. So thank you so much for watching and for being here. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.